What if you were trapped in a life where every door was closed, every cure had failed, and hope seemed completely lost? In a forgotten desert near Damascus, an old woman lay helpless, suffering from an illness no one could cure. She had no money, no support, and no way to reach the only healer who lived far away in Baghdad. But she held on to one powerful belief that Allah would make a way. What happened next was something no one could expect, a moment that would prove faith can turn the impossible into reality. In a time when journeys were long, difficult, and often dangerous, life in the desert regions near Damascus was filled with struggle. Among the people there lived an elderly woman whose life had become a test of patience and endurance. For years, she suffered from a painful illness that no healer could cure. While others lost hope, she held firmly to her belief that help would come from Allah. Far away, in the great city of Baghdad, lived a physician known for healing the impossible. What connected these two lives would soon become an unforgettable story of faith. There are moments in life when everything seems impossible, when every door appears closed, every path feels blocked, and hope slowly begins to fade. But sometimes, in the quietest and darkest moments, something happens that changes everything. This is a story from a time long before ours. A story of patience, faith, and a belief so strong that it turned the impossible into reality. In a quiet desert region near Damascus, there lived an elderly woman. Her life was simple, but it was filled with hardship. For many years, she had been suffering from serious illness. The disease had slowly taken over her body. It left her weak, fragile, and in constant pain. Day by day, her strength faded. Even the smallest tasks became difficult. There were times when she could barely stand, barely eat, and barely speak. The pain was not just physical. It reached deep into her heart and soul. People in her area knew about her condition. Many healers had tried to treat her. They came with different remedies, different methods, and different hopes. But one by one, they all failed. No treatment worked. No medicine brought relief. Eventually, everyone reached the same conclusion. There was only one man who could treat her illness. A famous physician who lived far away in Baghdad. He was known for his knowledge and skill. People said that through his treatment, many had found healing. But there was a problem. He lived extremely far away. For the old woman, reaching him was almost impossible. To understand this, imagine someone today suffering from a life-threatening disease, but the only specialist who can treat it lies in another continent. The cost of travel, the distance, and the circumstances make it feel completely out of reach. That was her reality. She was poor. She had no resources, no transportation, no support system. Traveling such a long distance across deserts and dangerous routes was not something she could even consider. And yet, despite all of this, she had something powerful. She had faith. Her belief in Allah was unshakable. It was not just something she said. It was something she lived with every single day. She would often say, "Allah is enough for me. He knows my condition. He sees my pain. If that healer is meant to treat me, Allah will bring him to me." People around her did not always understand her words. Some thought it was just hope. Others thought it was denial. But she remained firm. She did not complain. She did not question. She accepted her condition with patience. But she never stopped asking for relief. Her daughter lived with her, a young girl who took care of her mother in every possible way. She would help her eat, help her move, and sit beside her during long nights of pain. Every day, the old woman would repeat the same thing to her daughter. "One day, I will be treated by that physician, and Allah will make it happen." Her daughter would listen quietly. Sometimes she would smile, thinking it was just a dream. But she never argued. She respected her mother's belief, even if she could not fully understand it. Time continued to pass. The illness grew worse. There were days when the old woman could not even perform her prayers properly. Her body simply did not have the strength. Sometimes she would eat very little. Sometimes she would survive only on water. But one thing never changed: her connection with Allah. She continued to pray. She continued to ask. And most importantly, she continued to trust. Then one night, something unusual happened. The entire area was silent. The world seemed still. People were asleep, and the darkness had covered everything. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door. The sound broke the silence. A voice came from outside. "Is anyone there? Can we stay here for the night?" The daughter was startled. She quickly went to her mother and told her what she had heard. At first, the old woman refused. "There is no man in the house," she said. "How can we let strangers in at this hour?" So the daughter returned, and the strangers, having no choice, stepped away. They sat near the door, exhausted and defeated. But something changed within the old woman. Her heart softened. She began to think about them. Two travelers, alone in the night, with nowhere to go. She imagined their struggle, their fatigue, their helplessness. Her sense of compassion grew stronger than her fear. She called her daughter again. "Bring them inside," she said. "But keep them in a separate room. Give them food. Help them rest. This is a test for us." The daughter followed her instructions. She prepared simple food with whatever they had. She arranged a place for them to sleep. She made sure they were comfortable. The two travelers were extremely tired. Their clothes were dusty. Their faces showed clear signs of a long and difficult journey. They ate quietly and went asleep. That night, while the travelers rested, the old woman remained awake. Pain did not let her sleep. She whispered prayers in the darkness. She asked Allah for relief, for ease, for healing. Hours passed. Then came the morning. The call for prayer echoed in the air. The two travelers woke up. They performed ablution and prayed. After that, they prepared to leave. Before leaving, they thanked the woman and asked her to remember them in her prayers. But when the old woman saw their manners and sincerity, she stopped them. "Do not leave without eating something," she said. They agreed and sat down again. One of them looked at her carefully and asked, "Mother, you seem unwell. How long have you been suffering?" She answered calmly, "This illness has been with me for many years. I have accepted it as the will of Allah. I have no son, no brother. My husband passed away long ago. I only have my daughter and my Lord." Then she spoke about the physician in Baghdad. "I have heard about a healer there," she said. "They say many people have been cured through him. I wish I could reach him, but I have no strength and no means." The two travelers exchanged a glance. There was a moment of silence. Then the old woman looked upward and said softly, "I believe that the one who gave me this illness will also send its cure." At that moment, one of the men stepped forward. His voice was gentle. "What if I tell you," he said, "that your prayer has already been answered?" The old woman looked at him in surprise. "I don't understand," she replied. He smiled slightly and said, "The man sitting beside me is that very physician from Baghdad." For a moment, everything felt still. The daughter stared in disbelief. The old woman could not speak. The traveler continued, explaining how they had come in search of a rare herb, how they lost their way, and how they ended up at her door. "This is not an accident," he said. "This is mercy." The physician then examined the old woman carefully. He understood her condition and assured her that treatment was possible. He promised that she would not need to travel anywhere. Everything would be arranged for her. Before leaving, he said, "Do not worry. Your treatment will begin soon." And just like that, they left. Days later, a young man arrived at their home with medicine. He was the physician's son. He delivered the treatment and ensured that everything was properly explained. During his visit, he noticed the daughter. Her behavior, her modesty, and her care for her mother left a strong impression on him. Unknown to them, his father had already noticed these qualities during that night. What followed was unexpected. A proposal was sent, and soon, the daughter was married into the physician's family. Meanwhile, the treatment continued. Slowly but surely, the old woman's condition began to improve. Her strength returned. Her pain decreased. And after some time, she fully recovered. Her life, once filled with suffering, was now filled with peace. She moved to Baghdad and lived comfortably with her daughter. But she never forgot what she had learned. She would often say, "Never lose your trust in Allah. Even when things seem impossible, He can create a way." This story teaches a powerful lesson. And no matter how difficult life becomes, never give up hope. Sometimes the answer does not come in the way we expect. Sometimes it comes in ways we cannot even imagine. And when it comes to serving parents, remember this. Kindness, respect, and sincerity towards them bring blessings that cannot be measured. Because in the end, it is not just effort that changes lives. It is faith. If you like this story, subscribe to our channel, Hikayat Hub, press the bell icon, and don't forget to like and share the video. Thank you for your support.